Es ist jetzt eingeschaltet. Einen herzlichen guten Morgen. Good morning to everybody. My name is Daniela Klaus. I'm the General Secretary of Press Club Concordia, and I'm very happy to welcome today's panel. Everybody will be introduced by Mirjana, today's moderator and the author of this panel, but not only of this panel, but also of the series European Contexts. This is a cooperation between Erste Stiftung, Forum for Journalism and Media, and Presseclub Concordia. And we are dealing with current affairs in Europe and beyond. And I'm very happy that we have a panel on the media situation in our neighboring countries. We have been looking at Hungary for quite a long time, but also at Poland and Slovakia. And as you know, everywhere are radical changes, and today we want to know what does it mean for the media. And I think it's also very interesting for us in Austria, because maybe we have some radical political changes too sometimes in the future. Now I give over to Mirjana Tomic, and here is your microphone, and I'm really looking forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Daniela. Good morning to the audience. Thank you so much for the speakers for coming. Welcome to our online audience around Europe. My name is Mirjana Tomic, and I'm in charge of European Context seminars on politics and media in Europe. All of our seminars focus on understanding the local context, and the speakers always come from the countries they talk about, because I do think that perceptions are more important than facts. And today's topic I find very important also for me personally, for my personal professional experience, and it is the role of media in times of radical political change. Hungary, Poland, and Slovakia. Why did I choose these three countries? Well, the media in the West, including Austria, of course, has been all very excited about the regime change in Hungary, but it's only the beginning. We think now radical changes will happen and democracy comes overnight. And we shall hear from our speakers if it is so easy to have this radical change overnight. Why Poland and Slovakia? Well, Poland has had, when we see from abroad, radical changes more than once. What was the impact of media? Was there a really big impact or not? And the same holds for Slovakia. We had liberal regimes followed by illiberal regimes and then back. And what does it really mean? Because usually when you follow from abroad, you think now, it's all over. The good guy or the good woman is now in power and it's all perfect. Well, it usually doesn't function that way. So let me first introduce the speakers. To my right, the first Zuzanna Dąbrowska. She is an award-winning journalist from Poland who worked in both public and private media. She is a deputy editor-in-chief of the Polish press agency, PAP, and is a columnist of the daily Rzeczpospolita. Yes, thank you. She's the author of numerous television and radio programs, and she was also active in the process of democratization of Poland, and she was awarded for her role. To the right of Zuzanna is Filip Strucharik. He's a reporter and editor for the Slovak newspaper Deník. He specializes and covers media. He has received also several Slovak awards for journalism, and he was nominated for the European Press Prize. He collaborates with Reporters Without Borders. Gábor Polyák is a professor for media law and media policy and the head of the Media and Communication Department at Eötvös Loránd University. Last but not least, probably the most important, because that's where the money is Robert Vági. He's the deputy CEO of Central Media Group in Hungary, a company that has a portfolio of 19 online publications and 14 print publications, and has maintained independence throughout the entire period of the Orbán regime, and we shall ask you how. He's also been actively involved in industry representation and has been featured one of the top's most influential media executives in a list published by the Marketing and Media magazine in Hungary. Well, welcome to all of you. Just very briefly, the format will be, we'll speak for an hour and then it will be open for questions online and in person for an hour. Media is at the forefront of political change, whether from liberal or to illiberal system. It serves as a tool for everybody. What happens when there is a radical political change? Public broadcasters are often the first targets during periods of radical change. What should be done when the regime with media institutions during such transformations? Should laws be changed, or is it a key issue, their implementation? Is it about people or about laws? To what extent does change depend on individuals? Should journalists associated with propaganda all be fired? Can public broadcasters survive major political shifts? Can the same media system endure? These are just some of the questions I'm planning to ask. For the beginning, I would like the three of you first, but then I'll have another question for Robert, to tell us briefly about, because the context is very important, about the media landscape in your country. Could we start with Poland? Where are we right now?
Okay, nobody knows. First, thank you for invitation. Secondly, answering the question, nobody knows because the legal and practical situation is so complicated that even we, I mean people working in public media, we have problems to understand where we belong to and what are the consequences of that. To make it short, the long story. We had, before the Freedom and Peace, the right-wing party, National Right-Wing Party started to rule. We had the National Council of Radio and Television, and it was the body, so-called independent, so-called because they were, the people were elected by the parliament, of course, but okay, so-called independent to nominate bosses of the public media. And of course, a lot of different things to do. And then, because there are special, not equal terms, and those people were elected not at the same time, and it was depend on the actual majority in the parliament, new right-wing government decided to create another council because they couldn't manage with this one, so they create a council of the national media with only one task, to nominate the bosses. And it was in 2016, and the process went very well from their point of view, so they nominated everybody openly. It wasn't the process of negotiations like in the old council. No, they just did it. So after the next change in 2023, the new government, new liberal government, had the situation that had all the bosses against, and with so bad opinion everywhere that it wasn't possible to deal with them, absolutely. And I'm speaking this being a journalist. It was, and not because I'm somewhere in the political scene. It was clear that with those people who were lying and who were making a lot of harms to the people, nobody can work. The one example is that the national TV made a material about the young boy who was gay, and this boy made a suicide, and absolutely by coincidence the boy was a son of the liberal deputy. So things like this, not just lying. And then make it public, the name and the surname, everything was clear. So it was obvious that in some way it's absolutely great need to do something with that. So what government did?
We're now talking only about public media.
Public media, yes, yes. So they decided to make a process of liquidation of the public media. The consequence was that from this National Media Council, the power is going to the ministries of treasure, and in our case, Polish Press Agency, to the culture. And we have no presidents or main editors, we have liquidators. And the full name of my company now is Polish Press Agency in the process of liquidation. Of course, nobody believes in this liquidation. It's just a formal way to do things, to take us out from the National Media Council, which still exists, working somehow.
So it's all parallel now?
Yes, it's parallel.
So there are two parallel systems, one that is that reflects a Law and Justice Party, and the other one that reflects the current government.
Yes, but the former system is not working in practice. I mean, they have salaries, and that's it. And of course, there are consequences that my friend, journalist from the political department, couldn't get a credit for the motorbike because his company is in process of liquidation. But it's the only practical thing. The problem is that we cannot change the law because we have a president who is from the former government politically. So he won't sign any change of the former freedom and peace law. It's complicated, but the government can do nothing. And of course, there's a lot of speculations that, okay, maybe you can do nothing because the president will make a veto, but you can try and you don't. So sometimes we are wondering if the situation of such a big mess and a lot of misunderstandings is okay for the also new authority, because it's easier to rule in such unclear water.
Thank you. I would like to ask questions about polarization. Let's move to Slovakia. It has been back and forth.
Yeah, exactly.
Where are we now? I understand that also the public broadcaster was liquidated. I understand that the Minister of Culture, who has very far-right views, is in charge. But a normal person, a user of any media, do they have access to quality, or they don't? What is right now the media landscape situation in Slovakia?
Yeah, so situation in Slovakia is we have some ups and downs for the last 20 years or so. So most of this time there was a government of Prime Minister Robert Fico. He started as a populist social democrat, and during years he became more far-right politician, like you can see in many countries around Europe or around the world. So he now is in close collaboration with far-right parties. His party was expelled from European Socialist Party. He admits that in the next government he would go to government after next election. He is openly going to government with the far-right party Republika, which is, in this party there are not just far-right politicians, there are even the people from neo-Nazi groups or so. So he definitely is not a social democrat as he was 15, 20 years ago.
May I just ask you one thing, and then probably the others. I have the feeling when we deal with politicians and parties that have been to power several times, come and gone, with time they radicalize. Orban radicalized, Peace and Justice probably also, and Fico as well.
Yeah, in this region, it's like that. And the situation is that Fico is now, he always had the tense between journalists and his government. He always attacks journalists verbally on the press briefings. He called us prostitutes 15 years ago.
And how does he call you now?
Now the rhetoric is similar to Donald Trump. We are enemy of the government or enemy of the people or enemy of the country. So it's the same shift like in other countries. So this trend is it's a copy paste trend and everywhere. So for many years, Fico didn't change the media laws. So in Slovakia, we had, I can say, great media laws. There were European standards media laws. The problem were always on the specific institution or specific individuals who, even though we have good legal framework, there was always a way how to do shady things or that some things didn't work as they should. So and now Fico is a media predator. He is attacking journalists openly, and his current government, as you mentioned, they just after 2023, when the government started, they openly attack a public broadcaster. They renamed it, so they canceled the RTVS, the former public broadcaster, and they changed nothing. They said that they need to do reform of public media because they need to depoliticize it. They need to bring back objectivity and transparency and balance. But actually, they changed nothing. They just changed the name because after they destroy the previous institution and create new institution, they can elected new management, they can elected new board. So they completely changed the leadership of the medium and changed nothing. They wanted to depoliticize the institution. Actually, there is more politicians and more political figures in management and the board of a new public broadcaster. So this is one example, and they are trying to. The government is trying to fill in all media boards, or regulators. So they want to have power over the regulators. They want to change the media board as a state regulator to national authority with completely new structure. There will be one person who can decide about penalties for media.
Has the narrative changed? Does the narrative change radically depending on who is in the government?
We have the problem that even when there was more pro-democratic parties, and even when there were liberals or conservative, that doesn't matter. Even when there was no such guys like Robert Fico, even they made political mistakes. Even they attacked media. Even they, for example, change the funding of public broadcaster from day to day without any expert discussion because they just want. So even the more pro-democratic parties had problem to govern properly, and even they sometimes misuse power, sometimes elected people to boards without any expertise just because of the political affiliation. So there was, even when we have some bright times or bright years in a country, there was always all politicians have feeling that when they are governing, they need to, or they must do something with the media, not because of some expert opinion or because evidence-based politics, but because they need to do it for their party, for their electorate.
In other words, there is no perception of public. It's all about state and government.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, now we come to Hungary, where there are great expectations. The revolution has just happened. And before it eats its children, what is it now that you, Gábor, would think will happen? It has been the way Viktor Orbán has captured the media has been like a model. Nobody was in jail. He has his friends who own media. I think about 80% of the media in Hungary is under the influence of the state. So what can be done now? You are into media law. Is it about laws now? Is it about kicking people out of their positions? How far does it have to? What is it that you think will happen? What do you wish would happen?
Yeah, maybe it's worth to start with some remembering of the Orban system, because you mentioned if it is a question or if it can be seen as an example for other illiberals. And the answer is also complex, because yes and no, because Orban was the first in this illiberal tendency in 2010, and it was clear from the first day of his ruling that the media and the public sphere in general, I would rather speak about public sphere because of the social media, what is also absolutely covered by the political campaigns and political communication now. But in 2010, that was other old time. That time, the traditional media, the editorial media had a much clearer role in the society, and Orban started with the occupation of all possible fields of media. And it cannot be seen as an example, because that was a very specific situation after the global financial crisis, when all of the Western European and American investors left the whole region that also concerned Slovakia and Czech and the other Eastern European countries. But also in Hungary, the most of the players on the media market were Western investors. And after the global financial crisis, our media markets were not so attractive anymore. They wanted to left, and Orban came, and there were several space to expand. He and his oligarchs, I don't really like to use the word oligarch, because they are now 100% depending on Orban, or this after the collapse, it's again a big question, but during the Orban period, they were not really autonomous oligarchs in terms of classical Russian oligarchs, for example. So there were several media outlets to sell, and here were Orban, who wanted to expand his media empire. He could buy, or not personally, of course, but through the business circles around, could buy several of these. There is only one example, the central media, that was previously owned by the Finnish Sanoma, and they decided not to sell their media outlets to any Fidesz guys. But all of the other Western investors decided to cooperate with Orban. And it is very important to know, and this is a weakness, because in Austria, in Western Europe, it is not typical that the investors have such a huge role on the media market. So this can be seen as an example for the Eastern European countries, not the Western European countries. And after that, Orban had the two-thirds majority, what Kaczynski, for example, didn't have. And it made possible not only to make new media law and the new media or institutions, but also to have a new constitution, to cancel the power of the constitutional court, to weaken the courts, to weaken the prosecution. The whole rule of law system was occupied by Fidesz guys. So everything what happened in Hungary cannot seen as elements. That was a complex system. This illiberal system functioned as a complex and well-functioning system where no one could, for example, guarantee the freedom of the journalists. There was no judges, there was no prosecutors to take the stories or to defend the journalists and so on. So if you don't have this kind of overpower in the hand of the government, the risks are lower. This is the second point. And in comparison with Poland, Orban had never any ideology. Kaczynski had. Kaczynski is a real conservative guy. Orban is not a conservative guy. Orban is a guy who wants to have the power. And he changed. It was not only radicalization. He was a liberal. After that, he was a Christian Democrat, and after that he got the symbol of the populism. So it's not radicalism, it's the lack of the ideology and the worldview because to have the power. Yeah, and all of these elements led to a system where from the public media to the biggest players of the market and to the social media, the whole public sphere were occupied by players of Orbán and by the messages of Orbán. And the good news is that, so it was not a traditional dictatorship. There was no violence. You cannot find journalists in jails. There were several verbal attacks against journalists. We were not only the journalists, I'm not a journalist, I haven't been, for example, a critical intellectual and member of an NGO. In this position, I also was labeled, but the journalist also experienced every day labeling as a foreign agent, labeling as Soros agent, labeling as the enemy of the nation. Yeah, as you also mentioned in the case of Slovakia.
I just want to underline, when you speak like this, maybe people do not understand how dangerous it is in a populist regime to be labeled enemy of the nation, because it's a very easy way of convincing people that you're an enemy. So anyone, basically even in the street, can say, you're the enemy of the country. You're not a patriot. You hate the country. So, you know, when one just says it, it doesn't sound as dangerous, but it's very dangerous. Go ahead.
Yeah, and our luck is that this time we really could stop Orbán, because I'm sure that this labeling could have real consequences. There was a draft bill in 2024, I think, about, so-called transparency of organizations serving foreign interest, including journalists, NGOs, and everyone. And in this draft bill, you could see that it will be not possible anymore for work in Hungary as an independent journalist, as an independent member of NGO, because you cannot have any funding, not only from abroad, but also from Hungary, from Hungarian people. And there will be several administrative burden on your daily life. So it is absolutely sure that if Orbán had won, then we would be now in a very, very bad situation, and I'm not sure that we could have this kind of discussion. That was the last moment when we could stop.
Before I go to Robert, I just want to ask, so how does one dismantle that system now? How does one build a trust? From what I understand, according to the Reuters study, only about 22 or 3% of Hungarians have trust in the media.
Yeah, but this is a highly polarized society. You mentioned that we will speak about it. And this is the most important result of this Orbán media system and Orbán public sphere. There is a part of the public sphere, and that was, almost or around 50% of the Hungarian society who only believed that was said in the Orbán media, in the Orbán publicity, and the other 50% only believed what was said in the other part of the public sphere. And of course, the result is that the average credibility of all journalists is very, very low. Within the bubbles, the credibility is not so bad, but we are, at least theoretically, one society. And as one society, we cannot understand each other, and we cannot have any kind of trust in each other's words.
So what would be the first measure that you as a professor in media law would wish? What did Magyar promise? Does he care about media?
There are two very simple steps. One, to have a normal European behavior between journalists and politicians. Not to attack journalists, but to understand what is the role of journalism in a democracy, even if there are...
Does Magyar understand that?
It's a long process. I think he learned a lot, but of course, once he's coming from Fidesz, his socialization is binded to that. And secondly, more important, I think, he's a generation of politicians. He started his political career in social media. So he has his own channels. He can speak about issues with words and stories, what he really wants to speak about. And in this context, all kind of journalistic questions are just limiting on expression. However, as I said, it's a learned process, and I don't think that it is impossible to learn that the questions has a very important role in a democratic society, and this is not the same issue than I can say every of my idea on Facebook or YouTube. It's more important to me to think or to see what are important for the society who are represented by the journalist. I am optimistic now. So he has came from a very different sphere of society. It will be a long journey, but it is absolutely not impossible to have a democratic political alliance.
It's wonderful to hear something positive. Robert, let's come to you. How did the company you work for, how did they manage to maintain independence throughout this period? Is it by avoiding certain topics?
No, not at all.
Could you explain how, when we were preparing this conversation, you said that business pressure was even worse than political pressure. Could you please explain?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So first, I don't think that just by avoiding certain topics we could be let alone by the government, because they didn't really care about if you don't mention politics at all. They really wanted you to spread their propaganda, nothing else. Just in our case, we have like 30 publications, and only one of them, and only one section of that one is about domestic politics, and still we were labeled as enemies. So I don't think that even if we would abide by their willing, that I don't think that would have helped us. And yeah, I think that there are really several, or there were. Luckily, I can say that there were several methods that they oppressed the media. And I agree with Gábor that it was really, really systematic. And I agree with you that the second time they come back is always harder, because they can prepare for it, because they, got their experience. Okay, what should I do? And they came back with a kind of a blueprint for how to put down the media. So this is what happened in Hungary. The economic harm was very strong on us. Maybe the most important issue, or the most iconic issue, is that we were excluded from all state advertising, and it meant a lot, because the state advertising became on such a huge scale you couldn't imagine, like almost 1/4 of all media spending in Hungary, all media spending by the advertisers, was somehow connected to the government. It's unbelievable. Like I haven't even experienced or read anything like that before. So this is something that, and all this money went to their own propaganda, and they are not journalists, they are not medias. It's really propaganda tools that they converted them into. It's very important. So it's really a kind of North Korea, right?
So how did you make money?
Well, we made money from the market. So we didn't do anything else than making money from the market. And in the long run, it helped us, because all those companies that were their allies and their satellites, they just somehow got used to the subsidies, and they just forgot all this business acumen, all this business immune system, and we live by the market quite well. So this is something that's really important. If you get, it's a kind of economics #1 rule. If you get aid regularly, you will, just forget to develop. So yeah, but this was only one. The other one, the taxation. I think that you didn't mention the taxation. There was a taxation against the media. It was introduced in 2014. It's a kind of advertising tax, and it was aimed. Well, at that time, it was aimed at RTL, which was the biggest enemy of the government at that time, but it also affected us. It got suspended because of the EU started to fight and lobbying at Orbán, and they somehow succeeded to suspend it, but it was very, very high. I mean, the top tier was like 50% of your revenue. It's, unbelievable. And even if they only suspended it. And you have the feeling that, okay, it's suspended, it could come back anytime. So how do you develop? How would you make developments? How would you put capex money into your own organization? And also, from that time on, your company valued almost nothing because there were no investors coming into Hungary, and you couldn't sell your company, only to the government, nothing else. So basically, you had, as an investor, as an owner, you had the responsibility, okay, what shall I do? Shall I invest money into a business which, basically zero valued? I cannot sell it to anybody. So this was a very, very hard pressure. Of course, we talked about the regulatory harm and the regulatory method that they but content-wise is also something that they attacked us, they labeled us. It's okay, it was extreme, but it's something like happening in the US right now, or fake news, whatever. But the problem that Trump, at least, he just talked to or tried to organize press conferences and stuff like that. It never happened in Hungary. We were expelled from everywhere. They didn't speak to us. We couldn't get any information, any public information. So so we were even if we wanted to get some public information, we had to pay for it. And they did it systematically. So it was really a blueprint. They just detailed it and then they put it down. So it was not like they just found out, okay, let's do this or let's do that. This was heard of. No, it was intentionally pre-planned. So this is the problem. And I totally agree and with your opinion that the economic harm, or maybe it was me who said it, the economic harm and the economic pressure and enforcement, that was the biggest issue in that case.
Before I come back to Zuzanna, are you as optimistic as Gábor now?
Yes. We just talked because we are at the bottom rock of the system, so everything seems to be optimistic future right now. So well, we could even go further to Putin's Russia, but based on the government and the people around Magyar, it's not very probable. So the things will get better because it's very, very, very worse situation right now.
But I'm just wondering how long, you are both speaking of a perfect system. How long does it take? Does one have to dismantle it, or it can be modified?
It's the funniest thing, and I'm really curious about Gábor's opinion, because before this election, everybody was planning, okay, if we beat Orbán, maybe we can beat it. We couldn't even believe it, but let's say we can beat it, beat the system and beat Orbán. But what will we do? Because they are so deep in society, so deep into institution, they got everything, and we have to fight for years, just to do something. Otherwise, all the government will be hostage of this system. So they are in the background and everywhere. And it collapsed. Like in a few weeks, it just collapsed. So now it turned out that it was only on the surface. And it's very scary for me and also funny, I don't know, that this kind of really superficial thing somehow lasted for 16 years, which could just collapse in 2 weeks' time. Really,
But when you say collapse, in practical terms, what does it mean for this 80% of media that dependent?
Well, that's the easiest part. As I mentioned, they just got their business immune system to a very, very low level. They cannot really live without state money, nothing, not even.
So you mean they will just collapse?
Yeah, they will just collapse. It's something natural. If you don't give them money as a state, then they will collapse because they cannot pay the journalists. That's easy. The public media, well, that's another one. But also, it was so spoiled with hundreds of billions of Hungarian forints from the taxpayers' money going there for pure propaganda, and it was really so ridiculous. You should be Hungarian to grab the perception of how ridiculous it was. And of course, well, it's up to Magyar what we will do with the public media. What I heard is that he wants to somehow get it smaller, of course, which is quite understandable. The sales scale should be smaller, but also want to get rid of the political stuff in that. I don't know whether it's a good idea or not. Well, we can discuss it.
Well, from what I understand, Magyar said that people should renounce those that were part of the system. So I want to go to Zuzanna. How far are these cuts in Poland when the government changes? I understand that it's not only Kaczynski and the Law and Justice Party, most parties in Poland, when they come to power, they change the bosses of the public media. And then I have a follow-up question. The time is running really fast, and that is, I understand, so I have two questions for you. I understand there is, well, Poland is a very polarized society, and you know, with the collapse or with the arrival of the civic platform, a lot of journalists who spread propaganda, they went to Republika TV, so we now have a lot of far right or right, however you want to call them, media, and the American Newsmax has just landed in Poland. So what will be the impact? Will the society unite somehow, or it will be even more polarized?
Okay. First question, it depends, is the change of the bosses is an element of official systems, like, for example, in Denmark. You change the parliament and then, I don't remember, next day or next week, the prime minister is declaring that the boss of the first channel is Mr. Sorensen, and the boss of opposition is declaring the boss of the second channel is Mrs. Sorensen, for example. It's, of course, it's simplification, but it's official. It's official. In Poland, through many years, it was a system of hypocrisy that everybody was repeating, every politician was repeating that we have independent public media, but we hadn't. So in such situation, the change of bosses is the result of compromises, of party leaders, puzzles and things like this. But if we have political change, which is destroying all the system, legal system, the change is deeper, as did the Peace Party. They changed the system. And what we have now, it is a absolutely unstable, unclear, and uncertain system in which nobody is, nothing and nobody is sure about what will be going on. So the first thing is about which change we are speaking, because if we are speaking about a systematic change, like we have now, we need to have a compromise of all political forces. And nobody is able to answer the question, what if we haven't this compromise? Because we haven't. We have situation like
Let me just
now.
Be specific about one thing. As an outsider, when Law and Justice Party came to power and changed changed a lot of journalists in public media, even the Press Club Concordia and many international journalists gave support to the journalists who, for political reasons, lost their positions. But now when the Democrats or the liberals came back, or semi-liberals came back, we don't really know. Did they change people or they did not? What happened? Somehow the international community, and I'm speaking of a media community and newspapers who are not experts in the country, are not aware when our guys come to power. We don't really know what happens then.
Mm-hmm. When I was working in the first channel of Polish radio, it was 2016, and it was 1 year of peace governing. They decided to kick me out, but we call it to kick somebody out by hunger. So I had my salary, which was not very high, and all money I earned, good money, were because of programs I did. So I was coming to the door on which was a piece of paper with names and the names of programs, and every week I had less and less and less, and in the end it was 0. So this time I went to the boss and asked, what is going on? Okay, I should quit. Yes, if you can, please, just quit. Okay, so I started to search for a job. I found something, and I quit. And after a week, I found in my bank account additional money from the first channel of Polish radio because it was like in the old times before 1989 that party functionaries were, you know, understanding each other. You know, we won't harm you. Just go away and be quiet. So it was this way. And now, of course, bosses.
But you were in the same party when you left?
No. Now, the expectation of the politicians of ruling coalition is that everything should be changed. But of course, it's not possible and it's not sensible. There are new bosses in public media, but not new journalists.
So the same ones who were spreading one narrative before now have another narrative, the same people.
If somebody was the propagandist, not the journalist, went away, because with new boss, it's pointless to stay.
Okay. So they went to TV Republika.
Yes, Republika or now Newsmax, but what is the danger is that the main liberal TV station, TVN and TVN 24, it is sold to Paramount. And that's the real danger, not that the right wing has some money and some partners to create their media. Okay, they have right to do that. There are people who want to listening to them. But if the main liberal station will change into the Trumpism and MAGA, I don't know what will mean for us. I don't know. And that's something that it makes me worrying, because on the other hand, there's no authority with full understanding of media principles. There was a conversation with one of bosses of Polish press agency that we want to join the. I think it was about presidency in Europe, Polish presidency in European Union, that we want to cover it, that we want to have information, you know, things like this. And he said, oh yeah, okay, yeah, of course, Polish press agency, but explain me how it is that when I was the deputy in opposition, people from Polish press agency, journalists were calling me, asking questions, and now the same people are calling me. How it happened? And the guy said, oh, maybe they are just good journalists. Maybe they are doing their job. Okay, no, I don't understand that. So the expectation was to kick everybody out, then find journalists I don't know from where, from space or I don't know, and then everybody will be happy. No, it's not going like this, and it shouldn't go like this.
And could you just explain about the polarization? I understand there are two media spheres in Poland, and they are, even though we have a liberal or semi-liberal government with the law and justice president, the polarization is not is getting bigger and bigger, or it is staying the same because there is no communication between the two groups.
Yes and no. Peace is smaller, and believers, because it's not electorate. Partly the 15 till 20% of votes, they are believers. So they believe in also TV Republika and other right-wing media, and they are living in their own bubble. But there's a new thing. There is far right. There is Konfederacja.
So for the far right, there is even
yes.
There is this lovely expression in Polish that people told me: to the right, only the wall. So they are reaching the wall.
The far right is between peace and the wall, and it's a new situation for peace. Absolutely new. And one deputy told me, they are worse even than us. How it's possible? It's funny, but it's a fact. And this thing with this national ultra-liberal people is the social, not political gap, because it's clear, and opinion polls and serious sociological investigation shows that the electorate of the far right, which is together about 20% in Poland, there are young men.
Excuse me, far right piece or or to the
far
right?
Far right Confederacja. There are
okay.
two Confederacja. Yeah. One is the ultra-liberal National Party, and second, it's absolutely crazy movement like, I don't know.
Next to the wall.
Yes, next to the wall with a man who is destroying the Jewish candles in the parliament, arrested the female doctor making legal abortion. It means that after rape or something. And things like this, like Grzegorz Braun. And he is an Eurodeputee, and the parliament was voting.
20% of the votes they have?
Together.
Okay.
Bigger Confederacja has like 12, 13, and the crazy guy is getting 7% or something. Mm-hmm. And the problem is that they are supported by young men in big cities, in small cities, in countryside, and the young women are voting for liberals and the left, whatever it is now, but that's a fact. And this difference will create the next elections. And what will be the result? I don't know, but it's something new. It's not so much political. It's the fear against the future. There are even problems with finding a wife, you know. And there are ideas in this movement of this crazy guy that you should have a law that every woman until 25, she has to be married. Let's declare it. So things like this, and it's very, very deep.
Wow. Let's come to Slovakia. What about the young men in Slovakia? Which side are they on, and the young women?
I think this manosphere trend is global-wide, so it happens everywhere. But still, we can see the trends that there are even the conservative women. So there are women that are fighting against women's rights. So there is paradoxes. But I'm not expert on the gender issues, but we can see that the manosphere effect is yes, it has effect even on media landscape. Definitely.
It is quite amazing how some of these ultra-conservative men in the US have enormous influence in Europe. It's not that the New York Times has it, but these podcasts are very influential. I would also like to address the issue of polarization. Is it changing when the government changes, or it remains, or it sort of remains at a certain level, and it doesn't matter if it is Fico or a more liberal government or semi-liberal?
It's hard to say because, of course, After the breakup of the Soviet or socialist era, there was a big the division was between socialists or post-communists and the liberals, pro-Western people, and it has changed. Now it's a conservative manosphere far-right group against the liberal, progressive, pro-EU group. And the election is just the fight between the parties who are pro-Brussels or pro-EU and the parties who are, as Fico say, we are for all sides, for all sides. We want to do business with China, with Russia, with everyone. But actually, they are critical only against the European Union. you can't find the critical statements from Fico against Russia or against Peking or so being so. He presents his foreign policy like he is open to business or to he don't want to judge other countries. And,
but how does it reflect in media business? I understand that in Slovakia and some of the people close to Fico, they have even given interviews to podcasts that are really problematic. Has anything changed now, or is the same, or it's getting deeper? I also understand that the Minister of Culture has very far right, I don't know if she is near the wall or not, but very far right views.
Yeah, she is example of this woman who is part of the manosphere. She is our Minister of Culture. She is far-right politician. The first thing when it came, she wanted that the culture should be only Slovak and nothing else. She doesn't understand that culture is mixing of different things. So she is from the first day she is attacking any LGBT event or any LGBT cultural gatherings. And your question was
about the polarization. How does it does it remain the same across independently who is in the government? And also another follow-up question before your paper has bought another paper, so you're doing well financially. How do you manage? I don't think it has to do with government subsidies.
The problem in Slovakia is that for many years, the biggest legacy media were more liberal. And actually, the Slovak people are more conservative. They are more influenced by disinformation. The big part of the Slovak population thinks that Russia is our friend and the Putin is more responsible leader than the Western politicians. So there was always tensions between media and the conservative
and the people.
Because these liberal media were good at doing business. So when the foreign publishing house left the country and let the media build their business and do their own job, the only media who succeeded in this capitalistic world were the liberal who were able to find the business model, who were inspired by foreign media like New York Times, Guardian. We were following them, and the conservative media were actually non-existent or just the bystanders. So when you look at the Reuters digital survey, you can see even in Slovakia that only 26% of population believes in media. 22. I don't know the last number. So yeah, it's small for years, and we can see in this digital Reuters digital that in more polarized countries, people trust media less. So more the polarization, the less trust in media. And yeah, of course, Slovakia is polarized.
Just two brief questions. At this very place, we had more than once the former Prime Minister of Slovakia as a guest, Iveta Radičová. And we had her before the last elections in Slovakia, and I asked her, she was a Prime Minister and a Minister, what did you do wrong? And she said, we did not understand how important was the identity for people and security. So as I listen to you, I somehow feel that the argument of the far right, they represent the people. They are right when they speak about media being elitist.
Yeah, probably. I don't know.
Okay, well, but what happens with this other side of the Slovak social spectrum? Well, they are online and.
When there is when all the legacy media were more liberal and more pro-Western, the gap of the conservative spectrum, media spectrum was filled in with disinformation or alternative, you can name it.
I understand that disinformation is very present in Slovakia.
Yeah, definitely. And now the current trend is that the state funding is going directly to these disinformation sites or medium because they helped the government to be elected. They make the big campaign for them. So now they are giving them thank you money for all their work they have done for the last couple of years. You can imagine, like, it's a situation if the US government would give money to InfoWars or Alex Jones. This is the situation in Slovakia now. One disinformation page that it was banned in Slovakia when the Russian war against Ukraine started because they were sharing the pro-Putin propaganda in Slovakia. And at that moment, when the war started, there was feeling that we need to block some pro-Kremlin pages. So we blocked the Sputnik, we blocked the RT, and we blocked four pages that were pro-Kremlin at that time. There were a lot of problems, and legal and ethical, that for blocking these pages. We can debate it. I was criticizing it because it wasn't transparent. It was there were problems to block any medium legally and ethically. But yeah, 4 years ago they were blocked by state because of sharing Kremlin propaganda, and now they are getting money from state fund and state advertising, because they did a good job before elections. So
this is very interesting.
This is the
well, the last thing, and then please prepare your questions. Hungary is also a very polarized society. Do you think there will be a chance now to create bridges? I have a question for both of you. Let's start with Gábor. Will there be a chance, or it is, or the society or the two Hungaries will continue in a parallel way? You said to me, Gábor, we were talking before, you said now the pro-Orban media are in opposition, so you cannot say they're propaganda media. You know, they change sides. Do you see that there will be some sort of there will be a diminishing of the gap, or?
Yeah, just being opposition media is also something instrumentalized position. So the independent media in Hungary during the 16 years from 24.hu to Telex 444, HVG and so on, they were not opposition media, they were independent media. They were totally critical against the opposition. 24.hu was that discovered the using of foreign money in the campaign in 2022. Not the Fidesz media, but the independent. So if the Fidesz media will only be an opposition media, then they didn't understand anything about this 16 years. And if they cannot formulate any criticism against Orban, against the working of Fidesz, then they will really collapse. Not only the Fidesz media, but the whole Fidesz. And what you can see now is the decreasing of the support of Fidesz. So after the election, now we have new figures, and the support of Fidesz within the society is now 24-25%. It's much lower than on the day of the election was. So it is a real falling apart of the whole Fidesz environment. This is a way to the unpolarized society, and I think it will be very important when the Fidesz voters will face all misuses what they couldn't be informed about, but they couldn't believe. But if they will,
do you think they will believe now?
So if they will really see the pictures about the Orban Curia, and they will really understand, and they also the public media will report about the misuse of power in childcare and so on, then the chance is at least there that they will understand that they were. So the Fidesz media lied to them in the whole 16 years, and they were also victims of the Orban system. Of course, I don't want to have a society without ideological and worldview lines. It's normal to be diverse. My expectation and my hope is that this very depolarization, not to understand each other, not to use the same words and not to speak about the same problems will disappear, and we can have normal discussions about real problems of Hungary. And so I am now really optimistic. It is not impossible because everything will be turned out in the next 1-2 years, what happened during the Orban regime, and it will be a huge shock for everyone.
Robert,
sorry, just
please continue.
Adding one note to that is that, I also a little bit optimistic in that regards that this polarization of the Hungarian society will somehow get narrowed. And that's mainly because it was partly maintained by artificial means, by propaganda, really propaganda everywhere. You know, they were spreading it everywhere on billboards, from the TV, everywhere. It was really unbelievable. So you are lucky you didn't experience that. So this was a kind of really historical thing that they spread. So this after the change of regime and after toppling down Orban, it should somehow get lessened. It's inevitable. On the other hand, what it's not afraid of, but the Hungarians have a really, really deep tradition of this kind of cultural wars. It goes back to 200 years that the cosmopolites and the traditionalists are fighting with each other. It won't change because maybe it's in our national character, but it could. But still, I think it can be managed, and I think it also gave a kind of dynamic to the Hungarian history. It will somehow continue, but on a lower level. The problem for me is what Gábor mentioned, that I don't really see conservative media right now in Hungary. What is left is the left. And the left is not because everybody is left to the core, but because you didn't want to take side with Fidesz, because that was not a journalism. So everybody fled from there and went to the opposition which is independent, which is, so somehow what I lack is a kind of really conservative valued media. So there is room for that, and I really hope that it somehow will develop there, because even before Fidesz, that part of the right, the media part, was very biased, very distorted, very low quality. And I really, really like that, because I'm a kind of left-leaning guy, but also in many ways, in many cases, I rather conservative, but I don't find any media support for that in Hungary. And this is a problem. It could be a problem. So it should be solved. I don't know how, because this is the problem. Whatever they touched politically, it collapsed. They just ruined everything. So business-wise, content-wise, everything. So now they have to rebuild it. The right have to rebuild itself. And this is funny because what you see in the Hungarian parliament, that there are 3 right-wing parties, but still they have to develop their own values, somehow develop it. Because it was such a ruin, it was such a mess, it was such a destruction in the values.
So we have to be analyzing what will happen in Hungary in the future. Maybe it can be another model. I open Francesca. Please introduce yourself, then Daniela.
This is Francesca De Benedetti. I'm Europe Senior Editor at the Italian daily Domani. So let me first of all share my experience about journalists being considered as enemies of the country. I can tell you that this is happening in Italy with Meloni too. I've seen this by being attacked by the Prime Minister during her annual press conference or during European Parliament events on the rule of law. The far right referred to us journalists as enemies of Italy just because of us trying to have a counterpower role. My question is about Hungary, which is a country I do cover with my work. I have seen, maybe that's just because I'm a non-Hungarian observer, I have seen some worrying signals in the way Peter Magyar is moving at the moment. So I will tell you some of them, and I just want your impressions about that. My question is if Hungarian press at the moment is preparing to have a counterpower role with Magyar. And the worrying signals for me are at least three. The first one is that in TISA program, they declared since the beginning that they just wanted to simply disrupt the public television. I have seen, being in Hungary, how it was nourished by propaganda narratives, so I perfectly understand that the way it is right now is not at all aligned with the European Media Freedom Act. But at the same time, I'm pretty worried about not having at all a public broadcaster. So this is the first thing that is somehow concerning to me. The second thing is that we were talking about the way Orban built a system with oligarchs, so the use of economic leverage to control media. So what about Magyar's brother having built his own media during the electoral campaign? We have Control.hu, which is created by Magyar's brother. Third, last but not least, worrying signal is about a kind of algorithm autocracy style. So I can see that Peter Magyar is pretty assuaged to using social media to give his own message without any kind of intermediation. And I know this way to proceed because also Meloni did this. But yesterday, I have seen something really worrying. There was a scoop by Hungarian journalists about this Buddha guy. Maybe you know what I'm talking about. There was a scandal about cyber guys in TISA. The scandal itself is not interesting to me. What is interesting to me is that the journalist had asked Magyar a reaction to the story, and Magyar refused to answer. But when the journalist posted the story on Facebook, Magyar went there and commented on that, saying, "This is not at all true." So another journalist, Martin Bukovic, went there and reacted. So was it so difficult to answer to the journalist when he did the question? So the fact that Magyar preferred to say, no, this is not true on the social media while refusing to answer to the journalist is a pretty worrying sign to me. So
Thank you
that's
so much, Francesca. Later, I'll ask you to dialogue. Which one of you would like to start?
Okay. Yeah, about the public media, that's not true that it is only written into the program that they will stop. There is a plan to stop it temporarily. There should be, or I don't know what is the current plan, but this is what Peter Magyar mentioned several times, and this is also in the plan that they will switch it off for some days or something like that, but it is also not clear switch off what. Maybe it is only about the news channel of the public television. This is M1 and not the whole public television. And I think as a symbolic step, it is not so bad if in the background there are real work for building up the new public media with real reporting and information. So if they can do that during this temporary time, having the new journalists and editors, what is much more challenging than having the new law. Having the new law is not a big issue because Peter Magyar also has the 2/3 majority now. But they don't plan not to have a public media, I'm absolutely sure. And I'm also sure that they will have now very quickly new laws because they have to do that because they need funding from the European Union, and public media authority is also on the list to change before or as a condition to get the European funding. So it will happen something very quickly. But we know how Magyar Péter can do a campaign, but we couldn't know now how he will govern. This is the first time when we have the Magyar government. This is the first day, sorry, the real first day. And I'm sure that this week it will turn out what will happen on several fields, and I hope that is also covering the media. So we will have public media, and it is clearly announced that we need an unbiased, impartial public media and a smaller one, and so on. Sorry, the second was? Yeah, this example that you mentioned from yesterday. So my question was to my friends, because I know everybody taking part in this comment section. How do he have the time to write comments now? So is it a real issue for them? And it was an investigative article about this guy who was an important player in another story during the election campaign. This is again something that Péter Magyar has to learn by all means. It's not about posting and commenting suddenly on every issue, because it's absolutely true, it's absolutely sure the way to make failures. That was a failure, that was a political failure, because he commented against a court decision, a final court decision, and he didn't know that. So guy, you don't have to comment anything. You are not in the campaign anymore. Please govern and please let these issues on your press team. You have good guys around you. I don't know. Of course, I cannot know if it is possible for them. But if it will continue, then we will experience several failures, because now he will be criticized by the independent media, and these sudden comments and answers cannot help to have the good connection to the journalists.
Robert, would you like to add?
Yeah, just some more. I also agree with Gábor in that regards that MTV, which is the public broadcaster, public media, which was united during the Fidesz period. If it's closed down for temporary reasons, I totally agree with. I mean, it was really a kind of Goebbels-like propaganda. So you cannot really just adjust it on the fly. You have to rethink it. So I think that I would give him a chance that, yeah, just try to build it from scratch again, because otherwise it won't work. The other thing that, yes, I agree, it was a political failure. Maybe because he has been doing the same during his campaign, and the campaign was unbelievably successful. I mean, from somebody, an unknown person becoming the Prime Minister of Hungary, toppling down the most stable regime in Europe, it was something that maybe he got the impression that, okay, well, commenting on the Facebook is something that can help, and because this is what he was doing, this was his method of communication. It's not a good one. I'm a little bit worried. And not just because of this, but rather that he came from the same nest as Fidesz. He came from Fidesz, and he has a kind of similar, or he used to have a kind of similar approach to the traditional media as Fidesz had. But I'm a little bit hopeful that he is just adjusting it because of the environment. All the people surrounding him are really from, not all the people, but most of the people are really respectable guys, analysts, and those trustful people that I really hope that will somehow find a way to keep him in traction. The control.hu. Well, control.hu, I don't really know the circumstances. It's a small one. I think that he felt the need that during his campaign he was alone. You know, he didn't have media. He wanted to have a kind of direct communication with people. That's why he built it up. I don't really follow. It's so small, so insignificant till this time. So I wouldn't put more focus on that. But maybe.
Before I give you the word, Zuzanna wanted, and Philip also wanted to add.
I think we should be careful, or you should be careful, because in Poland it's a fact that the informational policy is based on social media, and it's easier, and it's one direction only. And we in the press agency, we have problem all the time when we have to decide, should we make a separate piece from what Prime Minister wrote on X, and our principle that we accept is that we are doing this if the tweet or post is changing the reality. But it's really, and it's not only that the political enemy is stupid or something, but it's so hard to decide every time what is worth to notice, that we have this problem permanent, and it's not okay if something is going on and we are waiting for a tweet of the Prime Minister.
Yeah, but it's
not for the press conference, interview, and or
you're right.
You know.
You're right, but it's a worldwide trend, right? That is everybody's. I mean, all the Western politicians, all the transatlantic politicians, everybody is trying to communicate through social channels, and I don't really like that. But this is some kind of reality that we have to somehow follow or accept or trying to. No, so it's not just Peter Magyar's problem. It's something. It's a phenomenon that it's quite wide.
I would just add one small note to public media. I totally understand that the Hungary public media needs to go through radical change. It's no debate about it. But the details would be crucial, and I would be very careful about the symbols that Magyar could make, because, for example, if the news channel would be turned off for a few days, it's an extremely bad symbol for the future. And we have the experience, not the turning off the channel, but we have these experiences from the past. Even the pro-democratic politicians and the Western professional journalists that were in the public media in Slovakia, they kick out a lot of journalists just in the revolutionary atmosphere, or propaganda, and it backfires. The pro-democratic government merged the Slovak radio and Slovak television into one institution, and it backfires years later. So any misstep, any detail, any symbol could be backfired a few years later, and could be misused against the new, let's say, professional public media that hopefully could be made in Hungary. It could really be misused later. So
thank you, Daniela.
First, thank you for the very interesting panel. As I have you here as a kind of advisory board, I want to ask you for your advice. We are advocating for independent journalism and the frameworks. So if I give you three topics, I want to ask you which one you would focus on. The first one is the reform of the press subsidies. We have a system in Austria of press subsidies with around 100 million per year for the private media, and it needs to be reformed. Second is the public broadcaster. It needs more independence. We now have a discussion on the general director of the public broadcaster, and everybody knows in advance. Also, it's not possible that the chancellor decides, but now everybody discusses what the chancellor will decide. And the third one, which is not so much in the public discourse, is the strengthening of the independence of the media authority. So which of the three would you focus on? Or is it something completely different from your experiences?
Who would like to start?
I don't think that you can emphasize one of that. And as I said, so what happened in Hungary couldn't be possible without this whole systemic change, not only regarding media, but the whole rule of law system. So if the populists don't have the two-thirds majority, if they cannot change the constitution, they cannot change the constitutional court, the prosecution and so on, then the risk will be lower. And the European Media Freedom Act is also an interesting, someone mentioned it, it's an interesting tool because it couldn't help Hungary during Orban. It was too late and the changes were too deep. But in a case where, for example, Austria, with a new government, would start to step on this populist and illiberal way, the European Media Freedom Act could be used as a real tool against populist tendencies in terms of defending the public media, in terms of guaranteeing the independence of the media authority. Of course, it is not about, it is, you cannot read anything about the press subsidies. However, yeah, so under democratic circumstances, for example, democratic or press subsidy is an important and useful tool. If it is misused, of course, then it is also against a democratic or democratic environment. You cannot have real legal guarantees against all kinds of political misuses. That's true. I think it's very important to learn how the Hungarian independent media survived, how they learned to use new journalistic tools. I think our investigative journalists are within the best in the world now, because it was so difficult to get the information that they have to fight for all pieces of information. They learned how to be funded by the readers, by the audience itself, how to make campaigns for donations, how to build up effective paywalls and so on, and how to have campaigns to convince people that it's worth paying for the information. There is a much more trustful relationship between the audience and the independent media, and this is what the pro-government or pro-Fidesz media couldn't learn, because the state support, they didn't need anything what is innovative for the future. But you have the time, for example, here in Austria, to build up this very strong tie to the audience, to find a way to communicate directly on events in campaigns with your audience.
Anyone else?
Yeah, okay. I think that nowadays we have a situation that there is no independence and there is no chance for independence of media. Why? Because if the state is not taking responsibility, we have a lot of space for American money, for Newsmax, for Paramount, and is it the freedom of media? No, that's for sure. So we need the kind of responsibility of the states. So, and what the state will get from media because of the responsibility? Covering or what? That's the question. On the other hand, if there is a kind of state responsibility, what I hope is to make it on the open, to make the clear rules, not hypocrisy that someone is nominated by the parliament, then there is a body who is gathering, and then this body is nominating the, but no, it's wrong. It's absolutely wrong, in my opinion. So we need a clear rules, the kind of responsibility of the state, and good regulations about the foreign capital in media. Of course, it should be open, but how and who is paying to whom? And what about big techs and big platforms? It's crucial, because if we have politics based on social media, we can forget about the responsibility of the state and things like this. So it's the paradox situation that that politics is organized by politicians in social media, which is absolutely on the other side of the wall, and they don't trust their own media, both private and public, because they can put questions. So it's crazy.
Thank you. Antonio?
Thank you very much. My name is Antonio Sanchez with EFE, the Spanish news agency. That's a public agency, 100% owned by the government. So that's why this conversation is especially interesting to me. And regarding the lack of trust in media and the role of the public, we have been seeing the last weeks thousands of people, tens of thousands of people demonstrated in Czech Republic because Babiš government plans to change the financing system of the public and television and radio. We saw that in Slovakia in 2024. That didn't prevent that Fico make the changes, but still, do you see in these public demonstrations some kind of hope that despite this lack of trust, this disconnection between public and the public media, I mean, the pressure of the people in the street can prevent illiberal governments to finish or to stop the independence of public media? And a question for the Hungarian colleague. Considering what you have seen so far about Magyar, what he has been saying, who is going to be appointed a new boss at the public television or the MTI agency, can you imagine or dream in a scenario in the next months where the public television make a critical report about the government, just an honest journalist report, not based on, not politically motivated? Or is that too much to hope for, even considering that Magyar is bringing much hope to the country?
Thank you, Antonio.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, I'm looking closely for the situation in Czech Republic. It's very interesting and very important, because we see the same trend in Czech Republic as we saw a few years ago in Slovakia. But the situation is different, definitely. The Czech television and Czech broadcaster, Czech radio, they have a much stronger position in the public. They have continuity in their newsrooms. Because, for example, in Slovakia, after every government, there was change of management, the change of editor-in-chief, the change of the head of news, head of all the departments, and a lot of news experienced journalists left. So in Slovakia, public broadcaster, there is no continuity, there is no pride for the institution. And when the Fico's government want to replace the RTVS with STVR, there were some demonstrations, there were some campaigns. But actually, the public didn't need to stand for the public media because they don't feel that this is their medium. They didn't feel that this is something that's worth the fight. In Czech Republic, it's completely different. We see the much bigger demonstrations. We see that the newsroom is much stronger. That the most famous journalists in the Czech radio and Czech TV are in the first line to defend the institutions. In Slovakia's situation, there were the people from kids broadcasting and from broadcasting for art, and not the best and highest names. They were in the background. They made one video that we stand with our medium, but actually they were not the voice of the institution, that we stand behind it and we don't want to change. In Czech Republic, it's completely different. The pride for the institution is much higher. The public, the much bigger part of public, understand that this is important institution. And I'm not optimistic when I look in Czech, because the politicians in Czech Republic definitely need to bring some kind of results for the electorate, and they promise to their voters that they will change something with public media, and they have to do something because they promised it. But I think that the compromise would be different here in the Czech Republic than it was in Slovakia. In Slovakia, it was short fight and totally devastating situation. So in Czech Republic, I think this scenario will be different. We will see how much it will be damaging the public broadcast.
And who will reply on the second question?
Well, I can try. The question, as I noted, was that whether we could expect some kind of quality but kind of critical reports towards Magyar in the few months from the public media. I don't think so, but because first, they should first develop a spine for that, you know, just to have that stance. And this is clearly what they lack. So I cannot really overemphasize that this was not journalism. So this is something, it was so extreme. We are not talking about Fox News or something like that. We are talking about propaganda too, but it was really, really beyond imagination. It's really, you had to be Hungarian to understand that. So
well, give us some example. We are not Hungarian.
It was just like a productivity news from North Korea, really. It was so ridiculous that you couldn't understand even the language of it. So it went really, really deep. They lacked everything. They lacked all objectivity, anything. The only thing they cared about is just, you know, to spread the propaganda and keep him in power. That was all they did. So this is why I said that I can understand and I can somehow accept it, that it should be not just adjusted, it should be rebuilt somehow. So, and I don't think that those people that work there right now as a journalist, they are not journalists by any standard, by not moral standards, by not professional standards, by nothing. So this is, I think that, I just can't imagine this, that they just, you know, stand up and say, okay, we are very critical of, and you have been doing sycophancy for the last 16 years, so how come that you developed the spine right now? So no, I don't think so. And just coming back to the question, the previous question, the most important thing is reaching out for the society, because this is what Hungary really lacked, that the society don't really get and understand the importance of media. They think that it's just some kind of business, but it's not. It's really the bedrock of democracy, and they don't really feel it. So this is something that you have to be very, very clear and saying it again and again and have some conversation with them. Otherwise, they just won't defend you.
Thank you. Zuzanna?
I just want to add something about money. Because we as a Polish press agency, we earn 80% of our budget, and 20% is money from the state for so-called realizing the mission. And it's very precise that our mission is first informing about the Senate and Sejm, both chambers of the parliament, president, and decisions of the government. Decision, it means, I think, a law and projects and things like this. And it's very proper. I mean, all the money is dedicated to a number of journalists working in this process of realization of the mission and so on. It's really for the people who are counting this in our agency, it's a disaster, but it's better still than just giving money like this, what is the everyday practice in electronic media, in radio and television. I'm complaining a bit today here, but this point is okay. I mean, if you have a law that is precise, showing where are your money and from which sources you can earn and so on. So the only ask for to politicians is not to disturb us. But of course, for example, now our possibilities are limited because we have in the process of liquidation. So, for example, we cannot participate in the huge project of European Union because nobody in European Union in the Commission will allow the company which is in liquidation and so on and so on. So there are also good examples how to arrange things to work on the open.
Thank you. Georg?
From Institute of the Danube Region, Central Europe. I wonder about Hungary. It is very interesting to read the book of Ákos Tóth, you may well know, a journalist who was critical to Orban and dismissed, one of the first being dismissed, and so many others who were critical of Orban were dismissed sooner or later, and those were left who were then siding practically with Orban and the government. Now we have a discontinuity totally in journalism. When we look at Austria, for instance, we have like Hugo Bortisch or also people like Paul Landwehr, yeah, they are here were here since decades. There is a continuity, and this is also for the other countries. There's discontinuity, and I wonder, for instance, about good journalists when they were dismissed, if they were ever coming back, they had other jobs in the meanwhile. How do you see this, that some of the former journalists, for instance, in Hungary, would come back? Thank you.
Yeah, it's a very important question, and it's true that there are several good journalists who left the profession and look for other jobs. But on the otherwise, it's important to understand that we had independent media outlets, and it's quite a lot. It's interesting to say we, on the one side, argue that this whole Orbán regime was absolutely against press freedom. However, one of the reactions from the other side was not to let to ruin all of the media outlets and the journalists who left their jobs because it was taken by Fidesz in several times decided to continue with a new company, with a new editorial team and so on. So there are several active real journalists who are and who were working as a journalist also during the Orbán regime. It's also a question of the public media because this is a very unique media landscape now in Hungary with this diverse independent sphere. These are the journalists now in Hungary. Everyone worked for the Fidesz media are not journalists. Mm. So the new public media can have their journalists only from the independents or from this group who left the profession, the journalism as profession. And if several journalists will choose the public media and not stay at the independent ones, then it will be also a crisis for the independent media. This is a brand new problem for the independent media. And therefore, if we in Hungary think it over, what does it mean nowadays to have a good functioning public media, we cannot have the examples from Western European countries without this very unique media landscape. We have to start our thinking based on the Hungarian media landscape. We don't want to destroy the independent media. We have to find a place for the public media amongst these conditions. Under these conditions.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? No? Well, I have a question. As I am listening to you, I have the feeling that there is no solution, or there must be some solution how to deal with politics and platforms, because they are more and more important. Can legacy media or traditional media survive in this world of platforms? I know it's a huge topic, but based on your particular experience, what would you say? What is, what? Last question, short question. Can media survive?
Of course, somehow. I think the most important thing is to have a clear model of what we are going to, where we are going to, how we are going there, and how we will use possibilities. I mean, should the press agency, such a question, should the press agency be present in social media as, for example, TikTok or Instagram? That's the normal question, everyday question. Should we do some roles and put there or not? Or maybe it's our image that we have to defend, so it's important. And how to get through and communicate with Gen Z, or, you know. such things. So first, decision, what we choose. It should be our decision, not the minister or parliament or anybody else. It should be our decision. The same with AI instruments. I think what is important is to communicate with other partners, with other agencies and media, to have the common line towards the new things. We are in a very similar situation. Of course, the financing is different, but the role of the press agency is rather clear, even now. So we have to communicate. And every time we exchange information with, I don't know, DPA or EFE or anybody else, it's clear that it's worth to do, and we can do some things together in this field. And with politicians, it's it's very difficult when there's a cohabitation, for example, like in Poland, because there's no the type of any idea of the media law that can be accepted. Because if president will invent something, parliament won't accept it, and if parliament will have something, president won't sign it. So we are in the dead end. So the only thing we can do is to avoid the pressure, is to fight with everybody, and of course the result will be that the bosses once again will be, after next elections or even earlier, kicking out. But okay, that's the fate of the bosses.
Thank you. Philip?
It's a huge question, and for example, for me, it's extremely hard to even imagine how the world will change with artificial intelligence. How the journalism will change in 10 years. I don't think that anyone could imagine what will happen. But so I don't want to speculate or give you some philosophical answer. I have two examples that maybe partially answer the question. Probably 7 years ago, the Facebook made a little experiment in a few countries, 5 countries. Slovakia was one of them. All content from pages, for example, NGOs, political parties, media, all the pages, not profiles, were put on separate tab. So it was put away from the news feed, where you go every day when you open your Facebook page. Or Facebook app, and it was put on separate feed for maybe 2 months. And what we see when we were analyzing the data, the media that didn't have the strong presence in the public, that the media that were just using algorithm to get clicks, they had 40% or 50% traffic down from day to day. It was a big fall. The legacy media that have communities of readers, that bring added value, that when something happened, earthquake, whatever, you remember, okay, I'm going to this page. This is your home page for news. These 4, 5, 6 media, depends on in every country or on every ecosystem. These actually weren't hurt that much. For example, for our newsroom, it didn't mean, it was 3-5% down. It didn't mean a lot, even though the traffic from social media at that time, it was crucial for us. But if you have strong presence in public and public understand your value, the platforms maybe couldn't hurt you as much as we're afraid of. So the platforms are extremely powerful, but we are still powerful, but we sometimes forget about it. And the same situation is with generative artificial intelligence and the Google that you have this when you search something for now, you have the summary, AI summary in the results. Again, we see that to all media, the traffic from search is going a little down, but the media that were using CEO algorithms that didn't bring added value, they were just making clicks. They are going. This line is much sharper, and the media that have strong newsroom, journalists with impact and the brand, the media that bring investigative journalism, they are not hurt that much as we afraid. So I'm not optimistic, but I'm not afraid of platform as much as I would as it's common in media sphere. I think we can manage it. We were strong before them, and we could be strong after them even.
Thank you. I have a slightly different question at the end for Gábor and Robert, and that is, you said, Robert, we have to reach the society. How does one reach the society and explain the importance of what media are doing for the society and for democracy?
That would be the first point to the previous question from my side, to make it consequently clear again and again that, dear society, you need journalists, and it is a joint task for all of us, for the regulatory bodies, for the newsrooms, for the teachers, for everyone. So we are speaking about a very interesting part of media literacy, to make it aware the audience of the importance of the journalism, that it is not equal to get information from TikTok and other social media platforms, even if the politicians themselves are personally there and speaking you every day something interesting. We need this kind of campaigns, we need this kind of teaching projects and so on. This is what we together have to work on. Yeah, so I don't have the receipt for how to solve it, but I know that I cannot solve it, you cannot solve it, but we together can work on that at least. And I would also emphasize in this context, one of my biggest disappointment from the Orbán era was the lack of the cooperation between the independent outlets. I am absolutely a huge fan of all of these, but what I experienced, that the solidarity, the cooperation was absolutely not on the set of tools of the independent media. They cannot fight alone against the platforms. They cannot fight alone against AI. They have to cooperate with each other. You have to understand that, okay, you are competitors in some terms, but the competition is now against the whole journalistic sphere, the whole legacy media, and if you don't cooperate, then you cannot survive. So it's very simple to understand for the media companies that you are not only competitors anymore. And the third point, that it is not a question or it's not a problem that you can solve at national level. We need European Union. And it is very sad to see that Trump is also very strong in this field. Now we are making step backs, for example, in the regulation of AI. Why? It's not an European interest. It's not an American interest. It's interest of no one to say that, okay, one more year without any regulation of AI. Every year is a huge crisis, a huge failure for making nothing in direction of AI regulation. So we need a consequent European Union in defending the European audience and the European media companies.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to join to that. Yeah, reaching out is partly job of the media. I mean, reaching out to the society, but also it's a kind of a state-level task. So we cannot solve it alone. It's for sure to develop an immune system, and this immune system is very, very important from now on, and not just because, or not just against new Orbáns, but also against this kind of future that will come in close. And I really see it quite gloomy. I don't know what will happen. I cannot really predict, but it's for sure that very, very many things will change, and in not a positive way. So I don't know whether this kind of media scene will survive, not in this form, it's for sure, because, and I don't want to play the big bad capitalists here, but everything boils down to the economics of it. Everything boils down to the business model, and right now the business model is in danger, and maybe the future lies with Dennyik and this kind of digital subscription form of media that can survive, but it's almost for sure that not in that large number that we have, so the media landscape will be much smaller, I think, in a very few years.
Well, since there are no questions, I thank you so much for all of your contribution. I thank the audience. I think we have touched a lot of topics, and each one of them probably deserves more an in-depth analysis. And I think it is not redundant to repeat how important media is for democracy, but also how important it is to reach the society and explain how important information is. For those online, there is a Eurosong contest in Vienna, and I give you all 12 points. Thank you so much.